Welcome, everyone, to Beyond Surviving, the safe space for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to receive support, resources, and share their stories. Beyond Surviving is about freedom, healing, connection, and even laughter and fun. Most importantly, it's about letting go of the pain of abuse and finally moving on. I'm Rachel Grant. For those of you who don't yet know me, I've been a sexual abuse recovery coach since 2007, and I'm the author of Beyond Surviving, the final stage of recovery from sexual abuse. You can learn more about me and the Beyond Surviving program at rachelgrantcoaching.com. Now, folks, I am so excited to have with me here today my guest, Jenny Carver, who's really going to be talking with us about what we need to really do in order to heal from trauma, things like dropping into the body, feeling more connected with our feelings and our emotions, and processing the feelings and emotions, but doing that all without necessarily having to, quote unquote, relive the experiences. So we're going to dive into that topic because I know many of you have been asking about it. So I'm excited to explore that with Jenny today. And a little bit about her. She's just so dedicated to empowering others to break free from childhood and sexual trauma and create new ways of being and doing so you can live a more fulfilling and purposeful life, right? Perfect fit, right? For Beyond Surviving. We are two peas in a pod. And one of the things that she's really cultivated in her own practice is work around diving deep into the body, work with the unconscious mind. And of course, her own personal journey of overcoming sexual trauma has been an informant and influencer in the work that she is doing. And she's just inspired to really support women in finding their voices and moving forward to live their lives. So, Jenny, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you. It's really great to be here. It's been a long time coming, and I've been listening to your podcast, following you, and I really love the work that you do. And if I've known about programs like that while I was recovering from sexual trauma, I mean, geez, things would have been different. But in saying that, I'm here because of that journey, and with things,
Mm-hmm.
it's the work that you do is so important, and it's needed, and it needs to be out there.
Yeah, well, right back at you, girlfriend. And you're doing it down there in Australia, which is fabulous. And
yes.
And I really want to hear, people who have been listening to the Beyond Surviving podcast for some time know a lot about how I found my way to doing this work. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you arrived here in this place to be doing this work and to have this mission that you have for your life.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a really something that even a few years back, if someone was to tell me today that I'll be working with women, to heal like childhood sexual trauma, they'll be like, I would not have believed it. And I was not only not believed it, but I was against it. There was so much resistance there. And the resistance was more that I struggled with even going deep into being raw and real myself and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't do that, well, how can I support others to do the same? And but it's funny, like God, had plans and kept kind of, showing me things along the way that I needed to, finally I'm like, yeah, I have to work on myself, let this go. And that's where I am today. Like my experiences, being sexually abused from my teenage years, and I've had first instances at 12, and it's more from someone I knew, someone I trusted. He was like a brother to me. He groomed me well, and I trusted him, and that kind of same thing with my next abuser. It was the same thing. I went into that same pattern in being groomed and trusted. And yeah, the second time around, I stood up for myself. You know, I was at a first job, and you know, I was so excited. I had that independence at 15, you know, I had my money, I could have that freedom. And you know, the manager, you know, took advantage of that and took advantage of me. And this time round, I confided in someone and said, this is happening, and found out that was not just me, there was a few other girls, and one girl stood up and said, reported him, and you know, went through the cops. And I thought, I need to do the same thing. And you know, that courage in her really encouraged me to do the same. And yeah, and long story short, like, it, you know, years in court, you know, and the court process, the court trial in itself is quite traumatic for a victim. And at the time, I didn't get that support, you know, and I didn't get the support from my family as well. You know, I love my parents. I love you know, my dad has passed, you know, 9 years ago, and, you know, the support back then, there was not the belief in them. Like, it was that whole, like, it's my fault I did something, or it was more, what will others think? And you know, in time, I've learned that that's just how they coped. Yeah. And they meant well, but obviously as a child, it was different. It was hard. And not having the support from my family, my parents not having the support in the court system, there was nothing. And I felt I was made to be on trial. Like, my journals were all out evidence, like my personal life, my sexual life, like everything was all out there. And when the news that he got acquitted, so he walked free. And when I heard the news, it was, let's just say, like, it was as if my whole being just shut down. It was, I just turned off completely. And life was on the outside fine. Like, I got married, I got, you know, it was perfect, like a normal life. But I didn't deal with things. It was just, I've been learnt to just toughen up, move on, push through. And that's how my life continued. And it was more of just being busy, just doing all the things and not sitting with my thoughts and dealing with things. And that just led to, you know, manifesting health issues, you know, relationship issues, you name it. Like, it just escalated. And there was a pivotal moment. No matter how many health issues I've had, that was like the wake-up call that I needed. Like, it was more a pivotal moment that I had was when I was sitting in an office at my old job, and my boss came in all fired up, really angry. And, you know, he didn't like a decision I made, and he was just yelling all sorts of things. And then he just walked out, and I had no chance of responding to him. Like, he just left. And it was that something clicked, and like all those emotions, everything that I've just pushed down, all flooded.
The lid
out.
Was off, mama.
The lid just tipped.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, everything just came out, and I just couldn't stop crying. It was a big breakdown for me. But in saying that, that was the pivotal moment. I thought, I'm in the same cycle. I'm doing the same shit. It's not working. I need to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started my inner work. I did, counseling, went to energy healers, personal development, you name it. I did it. There was the Me Too it was out in the open. It was just more people were sharing about their story, and it was just it felt like it was just the right time. And there was a online group Me Too program that really became where I started to open up and share my story and accepted that I'm a survivor of abuse. And I never accepted that before. It was, yeah, that was the pivotal moment. And then after doing that, you start having the drive to do that. There's more purpose in life, I started to have that passion. Well, how can I help others? And I still didn't there was still resistance in wanting to work with women with trauma. It was still like, how do I
I
help
get
others?
Yeah, how far am I going to go with this? Yeah.
So I did more the health coaching, life coaching in general, and and it just kind of just kept pointing back to, this is the work you need to get out. You need to share your story more and have that voice. And and that's where I'm at now.
Woo! Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us, Jenny. There are so many little pieces from your story that I relate to personally. I think it's really powerful, this moment when we come into the acceptance moment, like we come out of the denial, we come out of the minimization, and we just name it like, yep, and that's the thing, and that's what has happened. And that does so open the door to healing and what's next. And I also really understand the time you spent in like, nope, 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 nope. Don't want to look at this, don't want to feel it, don't want to, go there. But thank goodness, you found your way to that, and so that you could really reclaim your life and now be able to support and give back to others. So let's talk a little bit. A question I get all of the time is, Rachel, do I have to relive the trauma in order to heal? So I'd like to start by talking about, what do you think people even mean by that? When certainly some people will have come across philosophies or modalities that do push that idea. But I think for our context, it might be helpful if we start by defining what it would mean to relive, and then is it really something that we have to do in order to heal? So what's your take on that idea of reliving all of the abuse or the trauma you experienced?
Yes. So to me, reliving is going into a state where you're reliving that particular scene time and time again. And we can do that consciously, with PTSD, you're reliving the same thing. But I think it's to go back to an event, if you don't feel safe enough to do so, you don't need, it's not a necessity to do so. It's more working on, with trauma, like I believe we all experience trauma in some way, shape or form. And trauma is more of not what happened to us, but how it lives inside us. And when we start internalizing things about ourselves or others in the world, it's more, looking at that. So looking about the beliefs that you've started internalizing about yourself and others. And when you start working on those beliefs, you don't have to go back to those events.
Yeah.
As such. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I might add to that, to piggyback on what you're saying, is that, I, in my work, really think about the traumatic experiences as data and information. And
Mm,
that our goal isn't to immerse ourselves in the historical experience, like trying to take ourselves back in time, trying to like place ourselves in the scene and re-experience, re-feel, or even sometimes people will think, well, I need to go back to that experience and I need to put myself in it and immerse myself in it so I can somehow capture some information that will magically appear for me if I do that,
yeah,
right? Some answer will magically appear.
yeah,
And this is particularly problematic because, we know that trauma memories are often disjointed, or there are gaps, and there might not be anything even to dive into, if you will, or relive. And so then people are left with this feeling of, well, then I'm just, destined to stay this way, or stuck this way.
mm, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I guess one way of looking at it's that we don't have to go into those events to relive those events. And I hear what you're saying with the information, but in saying that, there's also learnings that we can have in that. And what I mean is learnings of how we process
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah, what are the stories? What are the
Mm,
narratives? What are the beliefs? Like if I look back at this moment, rather than just trying to
re-
relive it, which is like, what's that going to do for you? But to
yeah,
go back to the moment like an investigator. Okay, when this happened, this is a moment when I started to believe. Like I can think about a moment with my grandfather, where he's, pushing me around and like, pushing my hands away and I'm trying to get away from him. And he's saying, just let me do it. Just let me do it. And I'm in this moment, when I look back at that experience, can tie it to this narrative of like, I'm an object to be used, right? I don't have any agency over my body, like these sorts of things. And then
yeah,
that can help me then start to make, choices about what are the new narratives, what are the new beliefs that I want to develop. And, but just imagining that I'm sitting there on the porch swing, with him, that's not getting me anywhere, right? Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, exactly. And I
Mm,
think when we learn to um, be in tune with how we feel, in the sense of bringing up there's certain emotions, with the shame that we've had after
hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And that's a big one to really work on with any
Yeah,
trauma, that
for
shame,
sure.
that. And it's learning to be loving that part of us and being comfortable with that part of us, because we've hide that in ourselves. And it's like, how can I love that part? How can I embody that so it's becomes whole?
Hmm.
And that's what I think, in terms of, instead of reliving that, it's processing the emotions that we've had not been
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great place to pause. And
Mm,
when we come back, let's turn our attention to that. So instead of this whole reliving thing, let's talk about what would actually be more supportive and beneficial to our healing. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
cool.
Are you ready to take charge of your brain and kick PTSD to the curb? Then check out my 28-day boot camp for the brain, 5 foundations for healing your nervous system. This is a self-study virtual program for survivors of sexual abuse that blends cutting-edge neuroscience and kick-ass brain-boosting exercises, all expertly designed to teach you in a down-to-earth way the fundamentals for retraining the brain, healing the nervous system, and feeling in charge of your life again. And right now, you can get this program for a limited time at $47, $50 off the usual price. I also have a pay what you can program, so nothing should hold you back and stop you from taking advantage of this beautiful course that's been wonderfully designed to focus on healing you from the inside out, starting with the brain and nervous system. Go to rachelgrantcoaching.com/bootcamp to get started today. Now, back to our show. Welcome back, everyone. So, Jenny, before the break, we were talking a little bit about how trauma memories and trauma experiences can be informative. They can help us to understand belief systems or stories, as we call it in Beyond Surviving, were developed. But there's also other data or information in those experiences, which is, emotion, feeling, how we relate, and certainly how do we feel in our own bodies. So can you talk a little bit about where you've really put your focus, which is on learning how to connect with and feel safe in the body?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I've really had to work on and build on is trying to be in the present moment, because I tend to dissociate, and I tend to kind of freeze and just not be there. And it's something that I had to really work on to, and at times, like, I'm still going through, we all, I think healing and kind of growth is a long-term process. And I believe that it doesn't have to be a struggle, but it's something that we need to keep working on, because
Yeah,
we all
have
have
mindfulness
layers.
around. Yeah,
We
yeah.
all have layers, and we all need to work through things. And it's more being able to keep in our bodies. And when we are, I believe that when we are more in tune with our bodies, we are in that present moment, and we can then start to be able to notice what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and allowing it to be more of from a non-judgmental and more a self-compassionate space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a big one,
It
absolutely,
is.
because being outside of our bodies, dissociating is such a great way to, survive, to protect ourselves, certainly in the context of the trauma, but then also everything that comes after, all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the fears, everything that feels overwhelming and scary about the whole thing. Like, yes, please check out now, right?
Yeah.
Thank goodness for dissociation, right? It's such a powerful tool for survival.
Yes.
But
Yes.
when we're wanting to
Mm.
not be in survival mode anymore, and we're wanting
Mhm.
to live our lives, yeah, being present and learning how to feel safe being present. I remember in my own process, like, a lot of the times it was like, I'm just going to imagine my pinky toe is present, and that's it. Like, that's all I
Yeah.
could manage. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't even bring my whole body. And so I'd love to hear, like, when in this work that you do you have any favorite, strategies or tips or tools that you'd like to share with our audience that they could, kind of take and run with as just getting started tools, so maybe some basic.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing is just doing daily body scans, and it it's just, it doesn't have to be any emotional anything that you're going through. It's just sudden, I'm going to do a body scan, and it's getting to know your body. I think that's really important. So getting to know the sensations that you're feeling in your body, because I know before that, like, I didn't feel anything, and it had to be a real struggle to start to feel things, like and even touch, for me, touching myself felt really unsafe. So it was just doing a quick scan, how's my head feeling? Am I feeling any sensations right now? Am I feeling any colors? Or just starting to just play around with that, and just scanning, like, how are my eyes? Are they feeling heavy? Are they feeling light? You're just doing quick, shoulders, and it's just no judgment as such. It's just like, I'm feeling a bit tense in my shoulders, like, where else am I feeling? Yeah, and it's more just getting to know your body. I think that's more important thing to really start to do.
It's such a
Um,
good tool. I love that.
yeah, yeah, and to bring safety into our bodies, it's finding a safe body part that you feel safe to touch. And it's whether it's giving yourself a hug or a squeeze, or putting your hand on your heart, or even your forehead, anything that when you're doing a scan, it's like, well, where does it feel safe to put a hand? And it's just resting your hand there, and it's just noticing anything that, and just really start to build on that safety. Well, how does that safety feel in my body? Does it have a warm sensation? Does it have a color? That kind of thing. And it's just starting to, and the more you start to have that anchor, when you start then having moments where you're feeling like things are becoming overwhelming, you use that, well, I feel safety in my stomach. I'm going to hold that right now.
Yeah, it starts to become an anchor and a reference. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the source of this, but resource state.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I can know what that feels like. And when I'm not in that state of being, I can use presence, or even just touching a part of the body where that experience has happened, like where you felt that, it can kind of bring you back in to that present energy or into that space. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And things they're not so overwhelming, and you can just start to observe. And really important, like to, our bodies are, if we start to have that belief that it's a safe container to hold everything, just hold it and just allow it to stay in there. I think most of our suffering come from not allowing that energy of what we're feeling to go through that life cycle it needs to in our body, to then allow it to go. And I think that if we do more of that, and even then you start to learn to, when you start having emotions as, anger or sadness or hurt, you start to befriend that in your body. And
make space for it all. Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about, oh no, I'm going to forget it now, the lifespan or the life cycle of a feeling or of an emotion. Yeah, I think that's a really, really poignant thing to point out, which is, when we have suppressed feelings, they just get, stuck. And so, but they do have a life cycle, right? They're not, we're not meant to feel any feeling forever, right? And so, but if it's stuck, like creating the opening, creating the safety, creating the connection and attunement, so it can be there, like, yep, there's that anger, and like, yep, I'm gonna feel that, but feeling it through the lens of like, this is how I'm helping it to release and to leave and finish its life cycle. I love that. Yes. Oh my goodness. So Jenny, as we start to wrap up today, do you have any final words of encouragement? Just anything you'd really want someone who's on this journey of healing to really know and take with them today?
I feel like what's really important for listeners and for people that have gone through and are on the road to trauma recovery is to really give themselves the gratitude and thanking how they've coped, and because it has got them to survive. And I think that's so important, that we don't give ourselves that gratitude and to say, thank you, you've helped me, you got me through this right now. It's needed at the time, but it's no longer needed now. Right. But thank you. And I think that's really important, rather than dismissing it and being having those regrets or hatred towards it, is to love that part that it did what it needed to.
I love that.
At the time. Yeah.
Wow, that's such a call to compassion, self-compassion, and also perspective. And I love that so very much. So y'all write that down, take it with you. It's such a good word of wisdom. And for all of you listening, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Jenny and the work that she's doing, you can visit her website at jennycarver.com. You can find her on Facebook and on Instagram, Jenny R. Carver. And of course, all those links will be in the show notes. And Jenny, again, I just want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom and your story with us. I feel inspired to think about, if there's anything that I'm still holding that like, yep, I need to finish the life cycle of that. I'm really taking it. It's really sticking with me. I'm going to steal it. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Share it. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you again so much for being here and being my guest today. Appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been so great. Thank you.
Right on. And for all of you listening, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. As always, if you'd like to make a donation in support of the podcast, you can go to bit.ly/beyondsurviving podcast donation. All contributions are applied towards funding scholarships, the running of donation-based and free programs, and making sure that those reaching out for support get what they need. And of course, you can visit rachelgrantcoaching.com to learn more about sexual abuse recovery coaching and explore the other resources there. And then please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a note, let us know what you're loving. Do not let us know what you're not liking. And until next time, take good care of you.